So let's roll. Now it's time to hit the road. Road Rovers!
Welcome to another exciting episode from Marvelous Videos. I'm your host, Tia Ayer. Road Rovers 1996 cartoon explored. Road Rovers is a great way to understand just how big an impact the Ninja Turtles had on the world. Road Rovers is a 1996 cartoon that follows a premise similar to that of the Ninja Turtles. Both the shows have animals who turn into human-esque beings that fight crime. Road Rovers took inspiration from that and created a masterpiece with crime-fighting super dogs called Canosapiens. It's a clever wordplay on canines and Homo sapiens. The show was created by Tom Ruegger, who is also the brains behind Animaniacs and Jeff Gordon. It has the fun and comedic elements of Animaniacs while being an entirely new show with its own plus points. The characters had their own set of superpowers and used them to save the world by fighting evil, who were creating dogs with mutations for unethical purposes. The dogs also live pretty cool lives where they live with foreign dignitaries from different countries while protecting the world. Unfortunately, the show only lasted for one season, giving us 13 episodes before it got canceled in 1997. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What the cartoon television series is all about. Road Rovers is a Warner Brothers animation series that ended way too quickly. The show debuted on September 7, 1996 on Kids WB Broadcast. It only had one season and the final episode aired on February 22, 1997. There were reruns shown until September 6, 1997. Cartoon Network broadcasted the series from February 7, 1998 through 2000. The show's comedy was heavily influenced by pop culture from the mid-1990s.
I am too young to die. And far too pretty.
To the delight of longtime fans of the show during its original run, Road Rovers was finally released on DVD on February 11, 2015. It was distributed through Warner Brothers Video's manufacture-on-demand program called Warner's Archive in case any fans wanted to access it. Otherwise, you could always watch it online. The Road Rovers were a group of dogs that transformed into anthropomorphic superheroes called Canosapiens and battled crime using their unique skills and technology. The build-up to the formation of the Road Rovers started 1 year before the Road Rovers were founded. A man named General Parvo accosted Professor Shepard in the town of Socorro, New Mexico, and demanded his experimental transdogmifier, which is a pun on the word transmogrifier. Technology in return for the professor's missing dog. Professor Shepard caves, but Parvo tricks him and gives him a bomb that blows up his lab instead. Shepard, who luckily escaped the assault, decides to stop Parvo, who is responsible for the change in regular dogs and how they started to mutate into monsters. Professor decides to hold Parvo accountable and take action. To tackle his new menace, Shepard chooses 5 canines from different parts of the world.
Wow, you two look much bigger on TV.
When they get to his brand new underground lab, he uses his transdogmifier on the 5 dogs to transform them into Canosapiens, which were humanoid dogs that resemble regular-looking humans in clothing but still have all the distinguishing characteristics of the canines that they originated from, like a tail, fur, distinctive dog ears, and a distinctive dog head. Thankfully, they retain all their original personality after the change, which keeps them just as interesting and fun. In addition to speaking English and behaving like humans sometimes, and animals the other times, they have superpowers that ordinary people do not. When they were not busy fighting crime, they would transform back into their canine forms and live with the leaders of their home nations. Shag lives with the President of the Swiss Confederation, Hunter with the President of the United States, Colleen with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Blitz with the Chancellor of Germany. The dog's status as the pets of international leaders at least gave the situation an intriguing twist, since they occasionally had to use their civilian personas to persuade their masters to not go to war with one another. Later on, it was found that Parvo's time machine was largely responsible for the historical occurrences. These events include Parvo's presence as a cat named Boots in the past, his unsuccessful effort to build a transdogmifier leading Scout to transform into Muzzle, Boots turning into Parvo with the assistance of Groomer, Muzzle, and Hunter meeting for the first time, and Shag saving Professor Shepard's life by alerting him about the bomb that would destroy his lab, This is the basic premise of the show.
Well, for one thing, I'm smarter than you.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
Prove it.
Okay, look over there.
What?
Now look over there.
What?
Look over
Main characters of the cartoon series. There are 9 main characters in the series. We have the 5 Kano Sapiens, Hunter, Colleen, Blitz, Exile, and Shag, along with Muzzle and Professor Shepard. We have the villain General Parvo and his right-hand woman, the Groomer. Hunter is an American Golden Retriever mixed breed dog who is voiced by Jess Harnell. He is the boss of the Road Rovers gang. Hunter is also notable for being the only rover whose family showed up throughout the season. In A Day in the Life, he sees his mother. Hunter, who's from a farm in Wyoming where his mother still resides, escaped from a dog pound with a muzzle when the master Professor Shepard called on him. He became the right-hand dog of the President of the United States after that and lived with him at the White House once he was certified as a road rover. In addition to his super speed, he frequently mentions additional powers, like super loyalty, super trust, and super luck. He has had a kind of disposition and seldom ever gets scared or turned off by anything, although occasionally he may be a touch thick. Like any show, this one also has a romantic angle to it. In this, Hunter is unaware that he and Colleen have love emotions for one another, which keeps things from getting further. Colleen is the lone female in the gang and a tough collie born and raised in London, Great Britain. She was a stray mongrel that used her fighting skills to drive other dogs away before being taken in by the master and becoming the British Prime Minister's pet. Her character was voiced by Tress MacNeille and is proficient in martial arts. She also has medical training. Colleen is renowned for being upbeat with a quick wit and for being composed under duress. With the exception of Blitz, she gets along well with most of her colleagues and has a colorful sense of humor. Her superpower is her mastery over hand-to-hand fighting, maneuvers, and martial arts, and she frequently uses the name of well-known people in her battle cries, such as Nelson Mandela. She also serves as the Road Rovers field medic, but her driving abilities might use some improvement. Originally from Germany, Blitz is a male Doberman who is voiced by Jeff Bennett. He is a team player but doesn't treat others with the respect that they deserve. So yes, he does come across as a bit of a jerk sometimes. His razor-sharp fangs and claws, which developed during his days as a junkyard dog, can cut through anything. The strength of Blitz's teeth, which he can use to bite opponents, plus his ability to extend or retract them at his whim, give him the superpower to cut through even metal things. He frequently displays the urge to bite the butts, or as he likes to call it, tushies, of his adversaries and records each one, saying that when he reaches 1,000 people, he will get himself a new flea collar. Honestly, I support the drive behind this self-reward. He used to work as a garbage yard guard dog before becoming a road rover. Blitz joined the German Chancellor in the Reichstag in Berlin after changing jobs to become a road rover. Even though he has a tough exterior, he frequently displays timidity. His emotions feel the most human out of all of them to me. In the show, he was shown to have romantic sentiments for Colleen as well, which are frequently only addressed with pretended ignorance, and swiftly followed by physical aggression on her part. She can't remember his name until the final episode, which is the running joke in the show, to not acknowledge his feelings. Exile is constantly seen telling him not to be weird when he says something odd. Exile is a male husky from Siberia in the Russian Federation, whose real name is Exile Malkovich Senhusky. He is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, and is an expert at both mending and unfixing things. He is a wonderful comic who regularly mispronounces basic expressions such as calling May Day April Day instead. Before being chosen by the master to become a road rover, he was a sled dog. Exile stayed at the Russian president's home after completing his first assignment as a road rover. Exile has the superpower to instantly fire either heat or ice beams from his eyes, and he claims that doing so keeps him warm throughout the cold Russian winters. His talents also include super strength, heat, freezing, and night vision. He also serves as the Road Rover's mechanic, and he typically repairs cars that have been damaged in battle. Shag is voiced by Frank Welker. His character is either a Polish lowland sheepdog or an Old English sheepdog from Switzerland. He is caught at the halfway point between Kano Sapien and human, having the ability to walk on just 2 legs and possessing human dexterity. However, he cannot speak English, even though the others can still understand him. Shag first expressed fear of being picked to be a road rover. Shag was chosen because of his fearlessness, yet he is actually the team's worst coward. Still, he ultimately came around to the idea of becoming transdogmified. Shag, however, did not undergo the same transformation that the other rovers experienced. All that changed was his size and his ability to stand on his hind legs. He lived with the Swiss president after completing the first assignment. He is the team's weapons expert and frequently employs a bazooka that he consistently shoots in the wrong direction. His fur also appears to have an infinite capacity for storage, which has been used several times to hold food, furniture pieces, some that are larger than himself, and even other road rovers. He still prefers to run on all fours, unlike the others. He is the only road rover that uses toilet water for drinking and cooking. The others find it gross now that they have been gentrified. Our beloved Rottweiler Muzzle was also voiced by Frank Welker. He was Scout, Professor Shepard's dog who was taken hostage in the first episode itself, before being exploited as a Kano mutator test subject against his will by Jeffrey Otitis on General Parvo's instructions. He used to live a content life as Scout. Despite being exposed to the transdogma fire, Scout was not altered by his energies. Rather, they made him demented, unstable, and dreadfully vicious. Scout was eventually changed into a crazy dog since the treatment was ineffective. Following his escape, Scout was ultimately apprehended by dog catchers. He was then thrown into a dog pound, given a mouthpiece covering, thus giving him his new name, and then put into a straitjacket before being transferred to a trolley. Thankfully, Hunter, a fellow prisoner, saved him and returned him to his previous supervisor. Even though Muzzle is shackled for the majority of the time because of his lunacy, he occasionally joins the Road Rovers on their missions despite not being recognized by Road Rover. Typically, when the squad is in trouble, he is called upon to help. Off-screen action by Muzzle is inferred by the other rovers as horrible acts and even Blitz finds repulsive. At the end of his rampages, he can usually be heard belching with a swollen stomach, suggesting that he consumed the majority, if not all, of his victims. The geneticist who created the transdogma fire and the Road Rovers is Professor William F. Shepard, also known as the Master, who is voiced by Joseph Campanella. He is the team's leader and the source of all of their equipment. He is also the one who transformed and founded the entire team of Road Rovers. General Parvo was voiced by Jim Cummings. He is the main villain of the Road Rovers and seeks to overthrow Professor Shepard and rule the entire planet. He constantly coughs. He was subsequently revealed to have formerly been a cat before transforming to a feline sapien, which resembles humans far more than Professor Shepard's Kano sapiens. He looks very much like the wrestler Hulk Hogan. The disease in dogs that goes by the name Parvo frequently results in puppy deaths. The groomer, who is voiced by Sheena Easton, is General Parvo's largely obedient aide. She often carries a little hair clipper, although she occasionally employs additional tools. In order to stop Parvo's coughing episodes, she also gives him throat lozenges.
Lozenge!
Yes, General.
The first episode follows the formation of the Road Rovers. We start off with General Parvo, who has stolen the professor's dog, Scout, and wants the transdogma fire in return for him. The exchange happens between the two, but Parvo dupes the professor and gives him a dog cage with a bomb instead. His laboratory blows up, and it is assumed that he is dead. We then fast forward to 1 year later. We hear an ominous voice say that it has begun. Following that, we see a cute little dog get transformed into a malicious mutant, who then proceeds to eat his owner, who was a sweet old lady. Something had to be done about it, so Professor Shepard searches for dogs to recruit as an omniscient presence. All the 5 Kano sapiens plus Muzzle are introduced and recruited. They travel through a pipe into an underground laboratory where they are then transformed.
Oh, look at me. I'm so handsome I could kiss myself.
The team meets and interacts with one another. After they are transformed, they meet the professor, whom they refer to as Master. The professor justifies the reason he chose them by talking about their abilities like super speed, powerful jaw, cunning nature, etc. After that, they are sent to their first assignment in Maine, where they must protect a piece of technology. A mutation stabilizer, if in the wrong hands, could cause chaos everywhere. So the gang hits the road and finds the giant dogs that Parvo is utilizing as his henchmen. There are battle scenes between the two groups, which actually include a lot of crying from the side of the Rovers. However, the Rovers emerge victorious and manage to switch the stabilizer with a bomb, getting revenge on Parvo for their master. At the end of the assignment, all the Rovers are placed in the homes of world leaders, while Muzzle is welcomed back home by the professor as Scout. The second episode starts off with a sinking ship. It turns out that the ship was a U.S. Defender with an important decoder that controls a satellite that was unfortunately stolen. The Rovers are called in for this crisis by the Master, and they must track down the thieves. They leave the laboratory and go to the sea in 2 different vehicles. For the first time, we see Muzzle on a mission as well. However, it wasn't that he was invited, rather he snuck inside the submarine. But it was a good thing, as this was an episode that definitely needed Muzzle. When the group reaches the island where the thieves are hiding, Hunter's helicopter is attacked by the enemies. Their chopper goes down, but that doesn't discourage them. In fact, it turns out to be a good thing, as Shag discovers the secret lair of the thieves. However, how can things go so smoothly at this point? Blitz, being the hothead he is, gets himself captured in the quest to prove himself as the superior to the others, mainly Hunter. Meanwhile, Hunter makes the game plan and decides to distract the guards at the entrance of the lair by making them chase him while Colleen, Shag, and Exile sneak into the lair. While the guards are looking for Hunter, they end up opening the submarine where Colleen and Blitz had left Muzzle. In the lair, Blitz can be seen crying and begging for his life. The rest of the group is about to go and save him when they also get captured. Once captured, the Rovers meet the mastermind behind this robbery, Captain Zachary Storm. He wants to destroy the United States and attack 10 of their most important locations. He was court-martialed for opening fire without direct orders. Meanwhile, Muzzle sneaks inside and manages to free the Rovers. And during the ensuing fight, the Rovers realize that they need someone fierce and reckless to deal with the equally reckless villain. So they free Muzzle, who then makes Captain Zachary and his team members run away. But the villains don't give up a fight that easily. He decides to blow up the island that they are on and kill the Road Rovers. Thankfully, the bunch escapes just in time and manages to save themselves and succeed in their mission.
How's Hunter do that fire thing?
Production. Warner Brothers created the American animated television series Road Rovers. The first season of the program concluded in February 1997. After its September 1996 Kids WB premiere. The program then debuted on Cartoon Network in 1998 as well, 2 years after its initial airing. It went on to air on Cartoon Network for the next 2 years until the year 2000. Road Rovers continued to stand out as the best example of a Saturday morning cartoon program from the 1990s. The fact that the program was produced by WB, the company behind Freakazoid, Pinky and the Brain, and Animaniac, ensured that it was well written and had a compelling narrative. It was still one of the finest programs of the mid-1990s, despite not being as well remembered as Freakazoid. It drew inspiration from the Ninja Turtles as well, giving us another wonderful show with anthropomorphic animals, in this particular case, dogs.
Okay, but say it like you mean it.
Let's muzzle them!
Cancellation. The Road Rovers was a fantastic program, but it did not last a very long time. It only had one season and ran for only 13 episodes before it was abruptly canceled. There are a number of reasons for the discontinuation, but the show's jokes were by far the most common reason. Although the jokes were surprising and amusing for teens, some parents objected to their inclusion in a children's program. It wasn't surprising that in the 1990s the gags were lost on the younger audiences. Another theory is that Warner Brothers decided to cancel the show over a court case in 1996. In the lawsuit, a man named Blumfield claimed that the Warner Brothers had stolen his idea for a similar show he planned to create called Wing Puppies. The only thing that doesn't add up in this theory is the fact that one can't find any information about the court case or the show. The only thing that we know for a fact is that there was a court case, but it never evolved into a lawsuit. Some fans, well, mainly WikiFur, believe that the reason behind the cancellation was that Warner Brothers could not make any merchandise from the show. This is a plausible explanation since companies usually profit off merchandise when it comes to cartoons. They sell toys, video games, and even backpacks and lunchboxes to promote their shows. However, there are no merchandise items for Road Rovers that were ever created, and companies need those profits in order to continue the show. So yes, this theory seems to have some weight when talking about the cancellation of the show. Another fan theory speculates that the reason behind the cancellation was that the US government wanted to tone down the violence, especially after an increase in violent video games and school shootings. The public was afraid that their children would become criminals or serial killers. Another speculation is that Warner Brothers was trying to compete with Disney at that time, who had the monopoly in the animated world. They were releasing experimental cartoons to understand which ones worked and which ones didn't. So maybe Road Rovers was not getting a good enough rating, which is why they pulled the plug on the show. Those are the common fan theories that we found. What are some of your theories? Let us know in the comments below.
Well, I guess you'll have to practice your 9-iron on Parvo.
That should tee him off.
Interesting facts about the show. Along with Detention and Wanehead, Road Rovers had one of the shortest runs of any kids' WB shows, airing for just 13 episodes in one season before being canceled. However, from 1998 to 2000, Cartoon Network did broadcast repeats of it. The villains from popular shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Manos the Hands of Fate, Doctor Who, and the original Fallout have the same name as the Master. However, this time the Master does not have a negative connotation. Despite sharing the same voice actor as Parvo in this series, Jim Cummings, the Master is unlike those characters as you can imagine. Additionally, he is a few years older than some of these villain characters. The Master is also a rather generic title or appellation for a villain. So the name sharing doesn't come as much of a surprise, but using the same voice actor for the villain does. Despite having been cancelled, the show has not been forgotten by the fans or the Warner Brothers. They have referenced the show many a time in their other cartoons. There was a statue of Hunter in the Sylvester and Tweety Mystery series. There was also a scene in the episode Hugbees in Teen Titans Go, where we see Starfire holding a recording of the Road Rovers in her hands. All in all, the show is an entertaining one that unfortunately did not live long enough to fulfill its potential. Fans would love to see a reboot of the show like that of the Animaniacs in 2020, but one doesn't know what the animation department of Warner Brothers is thinking as of now. As far as watching the show is concerned, one can get a physical copy of it on Amazon or watch it online on Amazon Prime or Apple TV. Have you seen the show? Let us know what you thought about it or if it brought back any additional childhood memories. And if you liked our content, please don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one. Be safe. Thanks, everyone.
Make it stop, please. Make it stop. I'm feeling the tiniest little bit squeamish.